Hi, everyone. This is Hallie. I'm excited to be here with you today. We greatly appreciate your time. We'll go ahead and get started, and I will start recording. Hi, everyone. This is Hallie Crawford, certified career coach, speaker, and author. Thrilled to be here with you today. Thank you so much for your time. We're at the top of the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I'm just saying hi really quickly on video. I'm going to hop off a video just to conserve bandwidth because I want to make sure that you all can hear me and also can see my slides, and all of that is good. So we are recording today. Just as a quick reminder, you will receive a copy of our recording automatically. And we're thrilled that you're here with us today. This topic for me is very near and dear to my heart because we love coaching, the coaches on my team and I as well, we love what we do. And we really like it when our clients will start leveraging some of the coaching skills that we use with them, because we feel like that can help them be such a better leader in their professional life, regardless of what level they are, whether they're in an actual leadership position in terms of managing other people or not. So today's webinar, 5 Coaching Skills Every Leader Should Master, is being co-hosted by Georgia State University. So for those alumni that are here today, we greatly appreciate your time as well. As a reminder for those who are just joining us, because I know we're kind of all hopping from Zoom call to Zoom call, you will receive a copy of the recording of this automatically. And we're also streaming live on YouTube as well. We've got about a half hour today, so I'm going to go ahead and dive in with everything. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a certified career coach and have been since 2002. I know I sound like I'm 12. I'm turned 50 this year. And my undergraduate degree is from Vanderbilt University, and I have a graduate degree from the University of Illinois, a master's degree. And the advice that we're going to give you all today is advice that we give to all of our clients. And we really feel like when our clients, as I said a moment ago, whether they're in a formal leadership role or not, when they start adopting and using some of these coaching skills that we're going to share with you today, they just become so much more effective in their professional lives. So here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about why coaching and why we feel it's important to be a better leader in your professional life. And we'll give you 5 critical coaching skills that I think are probably the most compelling, powerful ones that we can train people on, but also the ones that are kind of the easiest to adopt and at the same time, really, really effective, kind of our favorite ones, if you will. And if you have questions after our time today, you can feel free to email us at admin@createyourcareerpath.com. And if you'd like a copy of the slides, you can email us there as well. I'm going to just put this in the chat box just so you have it. And actually, let me make my screen a little bit bigger because the tab is in front of it. Okay, cool. So I'll put this as well. If you'd like a copy of the slides, you will get the recording automatically, as we said. So why is coaching so important? So obviously, as we've all experienced, a lot has happened in the past several years with the effects of, working from home, whether it's full-time and a hybrid model, even if you're back in the office, but you've got some people that work from home periodically or all the time. There's just a lot that goes on, not just with leadership in general, but when you overlay this effect of having some people working from home as well, people can feel more disconnected. There's less of an ability as a leader to kind of provide the natural context of what's going on in the office and why you guys are doing certain things. There's less water cooler talk. And what we have been finding is that employees in general are wanting more engagement. They're wanting more fulfillment out of the work. And they're wanting more flexibility too. So as a leader, it's just that much more important to kind of create a culture, if you will, of honest, open, direct communication as much as reasonably possible, and to learn how to lead effectively remotely as well. Because I know that even with some of our clients, they'll have Zoom meetings even with people down the hall sometimes, just because one person may need to be on a Zoom call that's remote, and so everybody else is, et cetera, et cetera. So because of all of these changes, it's that much more important, I think, to start to implement and leverage some of these coaching tools. So the first thing we want to kind of share is, why is coaching so helpful? But also, as part of that, how we define coaching and how coaching is defined in the world, so to speak. So if you take a look at the left-hand side of this slide, coaching is technically, in the purest sense of it, it's technically about asking the right questions, giving people feedback, giving them, kudos, being a cheerleader for them, etc., and helping them learn how to figure things out on their own in order to improve their performance or reach their goals or whatever it is. So a true coach, and I say this because we technically, with my company, we provide a little bit of a hybrid of consulting and coaching, because we do give people advice because we feel like that's part of why they're hiring us. But we are very much also about, as much as possible, about not just telling people what to do, but helping them figure something out on their own, showing them the best way or different approaches to things, because then they can make their own decision about what the best approach is. Sometimes it's giving them feedback and input. Sometimes it's explaining why something is important or giving them encouragement. So technically, coaching is not supposed to be about telling people what to do. It's about providing guidance, empowering people to find their own answers whenever possible. It's not therapy, but feelings definitely can come up during coaching and they may need to be addressed. So you've got to be at least prepared for that. And it's not about just flat out going in and saying, these are the 5 things you need to do. Okay, we're moving on and that's it. We're trying to teach people to, when you develop a coaching skill, if you will, or that coaching muscle, if you put your coaching hat on, you're technically getting into a mode more of asking the right questions, giving people some feedback or input, or brainstorming ideas with them, or showing them, helping them come up with different perspectives versus this is the way it is. Okay, move on. So the 5 critical coaching skills we're going to be talking about today are listed on this slide. We're going to talk about designing your relationships more effectively. What we talk about, or coaching talks about, if you will, the 3 levels of listening and how those are defined. Powerful questions, recognizing other people's strengths, and developing your own unique leadership strengths, because that's really part of understanding, and training people or teaching them who you are as a leader and what your values are as a leader, what your personality type is, and all of that other stuff influences kind of the environment and the culture of the team that you're creating, the norms that you're creating, and everything else. So that's a really important piece as well. So let's dive into number 1. And this is designing your relationships and doing so more proactively and effectively, we would say. So what we like for our clients to do, if we take a look at the top right of this slide, is to structure their relationships, their conversations, and meetings a little bit more deliberately than they may have in the past. And what we find is, if you can create a relationship or team charter where you're coming up with agreements in advance that help set the stage for working together more effectively, things can go a lot smoother. And some of the things that you might consider discussing and putting into your agreement in writing are things listed on this slide. One of the things could be confidentiality. When do you need to keep things confidential versus when it's okay to share? We think it's a great idea as a leader to explain your style, your strengths and desires as a leader, so that people can understand how can they work more effectively with you. When you're coming across one way, what that means. If you're more introverted or extroverted, and what that means for your communication style and everything else. Agreements about when it's time and that it's okay to be vulnerable or open about what you're thinking. Providing feedback, giving an alternative idea to how to tackle a project. It's a great idea to have agreements about the soft goals you want to achieve in your conversations and meetings. So when you're coming up, for example, with a meeting agenda, the next time you do so, don't just come up with, okay, we got to talk about these 5 things because we have to move this project forward. But what are the things, the soft goals that you want to achieve as well? Do you feel like your team needs more of a sense of collaboration? Do they need more of a sense of belief in what they're doing? Do they need to think more about, what their strengths are and what they bring to the table? So it's a great idea to have, tangible goals for each of your conversations and meetings, but you also want to say to yourself, okay, what are some of the other kind of other things in the background that I want to accomplish as well? And then when you come up with either a team charter or agreement, you can talk about how to handle feelings, feedback, when you disagree with someone, when you have a conflict. How do you deal with all of those things effectively, and committing as part of the agreement to giving constructive feedback and input versus just beating on somebody, because obviously that's not going to help at all. So you can have a team charter within your team, but you can also have agreements with each person on your team to talk about and discuss, okay, when we come up against a challenge or whatever it is, or a conflict, how do we handle that effectively? And asking for their opinion as part of this as well. As part of, or the part of the reason why creating some kind of agreement, even if it's somewhat informal, can be helpful is when touchy situations do come up, then you guys are going to be prepared and you have something to point to versus kind of flailing around about how to handle it. If you have to approach someone with a touchy conversation or touchy situation, it's a really good idea to ask them in advance if it's a good time to talk about it, and ask for their permission. Like, I need to talk with you about something that may be a little bit tough to hear, or maybe a little bit difficult or touchy. Can we talk about that right now? And is that okay? And please know that I'm, bringing this up because I really want us to get to an even better place of working together effectively. Let them know that you have good intentions. Gut check the energy and get a sense of how they seem to be feeling about it. If they seem comfortable, if they're a little bit anxious, and adjust what you're saying to them based on that. And then finally, for touchy situations, we think it's a great idea to ask questions first. How are they feeling? What's going on for them? Is there a sense of frustration? Can you share with me like anything that you haven't shared yet that I should be aware of? Then discuss with them what your thoughts are, and your suggestions, and share your opinion at that point. We like for you to let the other person talk first because it builds trust, it helps them feel heard, and helps them feel like they're in a safe space to share whatever they need to. And this can go a long way overall for for your like relationship within the team and one-on-one as well. Let's talk next about our second coaching skill, and this is the 3 levels of listening. I know you probably feel like you've heard ad nauseum, okay, active listening is really important. I get it. So this is kind of a different take on it, and something I want to point out that may go a little bit deeper than what you've heard before. So level 1 listening is our own internal voice. I'm hungry. Why is this meeting going so long? I don't think this person is telling me the truth. Whatever is going on there, we need to have that. But as much as possible, we want to stay in levels 2 and 3 listening if we're really doing a good job of leveraging this coaching skill in order to make the other person feel heard, but also being able to notice when there are nuances in the conversation that you may miss otherwise if you're going too fast. Level 2 listening is focused listening. It's focused on the other person. It's listening to what they're saying, obviously, but also what are they not saying? What are their nonverbals telling you? And what are the nuances? Like, is the conversation seeming to get tense at a certain period of time, or is it getting better, or whatever is going on? And we want leaders to be at this level and then add level 3 as well. And the level 3, I kind of started to touch on already a little bit. This is what we call global listening. Global listening is paying attention to the energy between the two of you or within your team. How that energy may be changing. Are people seeming like sad or frustrated or angry or not engaged? The shifts in attitude or the mood or tone of the conversation. You want to be listening to your gut instinct about what's going on, because if someone is not telling you something, we want you to have the courage to say, hey, okay, so it seems like this other thing may be going on. Is that true, or am I way off base? You approach these things in a non-defensive or attacking way, but when you do so, it invites people to be a little bit more honest and open and upfront. The way that you can leverage this idea of global listening is to not talk too much, be quiet sometimes, let there be some space for the other person, not just to talk, but maybe to think. Calm yourself down if you feel like you're getting a little bit tense in the conversation. Still your body. And we suggest too, slow yourself down. Like slow down the pace and cadence of your conversation and talking with them so that you don't step over something that's actually important for you to discuss. It's okay to interrupt them and guide them, but what we would recommend is asking permission, is say, hold on one second. Do you mind if I ask you something? And just, I know I'm interrupting you. I apologize for that. But can I ask you something about something you said a second ago? Because I feel like it's important. Okay. And then finally, another way to get into this level 3 global listening is ask people a question versus giving them advice. And we're going to talk about questions next. So coaching skill number 3 is about guiding people, not advising or telling them what to do. And one of the tools that we really like for leaders is this idea of powerful questions. So you'll see on this next slide, powerful questions here and in the middle as well. And there are some examples here in the middle of this slide, powerful questions. Now I'll explain what the deal is with them. Powerful questions are open-ended. They are simply curious and they're childlike in that way. There's no judgment in them, and they allow for the employee or the person that you're talking to or your team to experiment a little bit with their own answers. They're really good questions because they invite people to think about something. Bottom line is, with powerful questions, they do not allow for a yes or no answer. And if you look at the examples here, what I like about powerful questions is that number one, it forces the person to give you more than a yes or no answer. So they won't be like my teenage son who's 16 and he'll be like, yes, no, whatever it is. I have to practice powerful questions with him. The other thing that I like about these is that it assumes a positive outcome depending on how you word it. So if you look at this first example, how can we work together more effectively? There's no yes or no here. And also, it assumes that you can work together more effectively. There isn't room for saying, well, it's not going to work and all of that. It forces you all to be positive and proactive and constructive about what you both can do differently. And it requires, in a way, in the right way, the other person as well as you to work towards being accountable to how to make your relationship a little bit better. So powerful questions is tool number 3. And what's underneath powerful questions is curiosity. So if you're ever trying to say, okay, how do I get into or leverage or phrase a powerful question, go to a curious place in your mind. Remember that if there's an opinion coming up or bubbling up or judgment, you want to push that aside, at least at the beginning. We realize that at some point, if you're the boss, you have to make decisions and tell people what to do. Totally get that. But the more you can share this, your curiosity and these powerful questions, the more information you're going to get out of people and more feedback and input. To get curious, you also want to stay present with the other person and with the conversation in level 2 and 3 of listening. It is okay to offer opinion when appropriate. And if you look at the left-hand side of this slide on the very bottom, the bottom line here with this curiosity thing is to build trust with other people. It's a good idea to make an effort to understand their perspective overall and first. This does not mean you have to agree with them. This does not mean you have to fully empathize or understand them. But if you make an effort to do so, it's going to go a long way for developing your relationship and establishing that trust and honesty a little bit more. And you're going to get better ideas out of people when you solicit things in this way. As part of getting curious, if you ever feel like things aren't going as well as they could with a particular employee or your team, and even if they are going well, Remember, we talked a moment ago about having soft goals for your meetings as well. This four needs of followers from the Gallup organization. This is their model. The Gallup organization owns the Strengths Finder assessment, which many of you have probably heard of. But this is something that you can use to help guide your meetings with people. And it can also help you understand what may be broken and not going as well. What the Gallup organization asserts, and we agree with, is that people have, and followers is basically, in my opinion, an odd way of saying, an employee of any organization. So a follower is really anybody within your team. But we all have these needs. We need a sense of trust, stability, compassion, and hope. And the way that you can build these things as a leader are listed on the side of this model, on the left-hand side here and the right-hand side here. So if something's not going well with someone, you may want to check out and think about for a second, is there a lack of trust here? Or is there a lack of a sense of stability because we've just been bought out, for example, and they may feel nervous about it? This can help you not just kind of diagnose possible problems, but it can also give you a sense of what you may need to be providing a little bit more to your team or a particular person, and help you identify what some of your soft goals could be for some of your meetings. Okay. We like this a lot. One of our clients used it right away, and she was like, oh, I figured out all of the problems and why they exist within my entire organization. She happened to be in healthcare consulting. And it was just really powerful. It's very simple, but can be very powerful to help you see what's going on and drive things in the right direction. So as part of skill number 3 and being curious, that's the idea of understanding what people's needs are so you can try to work toward meeting them as much as possible. We always like to mention this because people who would like to learn more about our coaching services because they feel like they have a really specific need or situation, or if you're trying to make a career change or handle a job search, those are the types of things that we help our clients with. We're always happy to do a free consult with you. You can sign up for that by using this email address. It's the same one I put in the chat. We'd be happy to set that up with you. And we always provide a discount for Georgia State alum, just by the way, too. And I'm happy to talk with you about all of those things and see if we're the right fit to help you out. Coaching skill number 4 is to recognize other people's strengths. This goes back and it kind of goes hand in hand, really, with the 4 needs of followers and understanding what people's needs are. You also need to understand what their strengths are and what they bring to the table. And the way that you can start to notice that or pay attention to it is when you notice they're being effective and successful. Like, where do they shine and where do they struggle? That can give you some clues to what their strengths may or may not be. When they seem to actively look forward to a particular project or task or working with a specific client, you may want to ask a little bit more about that. Why is that for them? You can get a sense of their strengths there. When you notice that they're in the zone, they're like inquisitive, they're focused, they get their work done faster than normal. That's another clue to that they're using a possible strength. And finally, when they seem to feel really fulfilled and kind of like they're being very authentic, this can give you a clue to what some of their strengths are too. This is also a model from the Gallup organization. And it's really important for everyone on your team and everyone that you work with to take like 5 minutes to try to understand what their strengths are and what their personality type is, because it's going to help you as a leader adjust your communication for what their needs and their strengths are and their personality type. Set up the right team so that you've got a diverse skill set within your team and so much more. It'll help them steer their career in the right direction so that they're playing to their strengths and they're fulfilled. And coaching skill number 5 is to develop your own unique leadership style, and not just develop it, but understand it and communicate it to others. These are the things on the left-hand side of this slide that we want you to be a little bit more open with people about, like, what are your strengths and what are some of your challenges? We think it's okay to say, I'm not always as detailed as I could be. So please let me know if there's something I missed. And this is part of where I need to lean on you, for example. What are your values? What's your personality type? All of these different things can not only help you fine tune and develop your strengths as a leader, but also understand where you may need a little bit of help, and you can ask for that help and kind of plug and play certain team members and communicate your leadership style and your strengths more and more, because that's one of the missing pieces. I think leaders don't teach or explain why they're coming across a certain way or who they are as a leader to their employees enough. And when you do that, people can better work with you and adjust their style as well. On this slide here is a model from Development Dimensions International. And this is their top leadership skills wheel that they assert are important in the workplace. Some of these may be more relevant to your situation and your job and your industry than others, but we find this can be really, really helpful. If you do this quick assessment to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are, this can help you not only develop your leadership style, but understand like how you're coming across and why, for example, you do well with certain employees and in certain areas, and maybe not as well in certain areas. We love it when our clients will not just do the self-assessment, but they will also ask other people for their input, because then they can get that objective opinion in areas that they may have overlooked or missed. All right. So before we go today, we'd like you to take a moment, if you would, to write down one action step that you will take for this week. We would love it if you would share it in the chat box if you're comfortable doing so. If not, that's fine. At least write it down for yourselves. And some of our suggested possible action items are on the right-hand side here. You might be like, gosh, I want to understand my leadership style more. That's where I feel like I'm lacking right now. You may say, I need to do some team or individual agreements on how to deal with kind of tough situations with people, but also how to deal with success and celebrate those things. Whatever your situation is, think about what is going to make the most sense for you based on the 5 skills that we shared with you today. And you may want to say, okay, let me pick on one or pick up on one and work on that in the next month. And then I'll pick up the other ones later on as I go. So this could be like a 90-day plan for you of improvement. And finally, before we go, if you'd like a copy of our slides, just as a reminder, you can email us here. And that's the same place that you can request a consult with us as well. I'd be happy to talk with you about our services. I'm going to hop on video before we go today. Happy to talk with you about how we can assist you, provide that discount for you as well, and see if we're the right fit to work with you. I hope this was helpful for you as a starting point. Part of why I wasn't on video, as you can see now, I love in my office. My office is actually a sunroom, which is fantastic. But as we get into the fall and the winter like this, it starts to be like I'm about to get a nice suntan while I'm sitting here. So thank you so much for your time today, everyone. As a reminder, you will receive the recording of this automatically, and it's also been streamed live on YouTube as well. So you can check it out there later on. Have a great day. And rest of the week. And I hope this was helpful for you as a starting point for one of your 5 coaching skills